have it happen. Well,
I'd like to call to order the quarterly meeting of the Board of Public Works. Let's stand for the pledge.
pledge again.
We'll pledge again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we have the roll call, please?
Road Commissioner Calhoun,
Present.
Road Commissioner Greenan,
Here.
Road Commissioner Joyce,
Here.
Road Commissioner Mikowski,
Here.
Road Commissioner Popa, all present.
Okay, thank you. We have the agenda in front of us. Does anybody have any additions or modifications or subtractions?
I'm okay with it.
Looks good. Okay, hearing none, we'll accept the agenda as shown. We also have the minutes from the organizational meeting of February 16th in front of us. I guess we'll be getting the minutes for the regular quarterly meeting on the 16th at a later time.
That's correct.
Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes of 16th? If not, I'll accept the motion to accept.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. The agenda is accepted, or minutes are accepted. Communication items. I don't have anything on communication items. Does anybody have anything?
No.
No? Okay. Public comment. I guess everybody's on the agenda that's here, so no public comment. And no old business, which allows us to get to the business at hand, which is the financial status update from the village of Northport and Leelanau Township. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming, discuss that. Part of the BPW's responsibility is to be able to ensure that things are on track in terms of paying off the bonds, which comes back. So, I see you both have handouts. I don't know which of you would like to go first. Maybe just briefly summarize your handout and then.
Sure, okay,
Joni?
yeah. So Joni Scott, with the Village of Northport, and I brought with me Chris Holton, who's our superintendent for the NLTUA. So I did go ahead and hand out the Jacobs, who is our treatment plant operators. They do an annual report. And so I have the 2021 annual report, was just handed out to you. And it's got a lot of great information in there about our facility. And then I also, I'm sorry, Mr. Green, did this document get handed out?
It did at the last meeting, I
You
believe.
don't have them here.
Oh, okay, I came, I'm sorry.
Or I can go run some, Joni, if you'd like.
That's okay. I brought, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I would have brought more of
That's
them,
okay.
so,
Do you want copies of these to look at right now?
Yes, please.
I'll be right
We'll
Yep.
go into recess for a minute. We'll get a copy.
Oh, okay, I can go over the budget if you want for the NLTWA, just cover a few things that we have going on, so.
She has to take the notes.
Yes,
Oh.
so-
So she doesn't just record us while we're gone?
Yeah, we have to.
Break the silence. I was gonna say my boards don't stop, they just keep going. They don't stop for me, I'm like, I'm trying to take a note, what?
That's about it.
How's your dad doing? And
This year.
Mm-hmm.
recently? Oh my God.
Yep.
I never can tell if he's there or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
How's your mom? She's still
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for.
Yeah,
Pause.
sure, so,
Okay, we can proceed now.
thank
We're
you.
back in session.
Okay. You have in front of you the Jacobs Annual Report. We just paused because at your last meeting, I provided, which is the colorful spreadsheet, and that is the debt retirement schedule for the bonds, for the village portion of the sewer bonds. And I can go over that here in just a minute. And then I also provided the newly adopted NLTUA budget that you have in front of you there. Some things to point out to you for the NLTUA. We just recently, in January, the board approved an increase in our operations and maintenance fees. The treatment plant and the facility, the collection system it's 14 years old. So we're starting to see the need to replace a lot of our equipment, our mixers. We've been doing that all along. We've had some larger equipment failures that have, during this time where everyone can see that you have supplies that are needed, but you can't find them. And so we had a major equipment failure at the end of the year, and that led to, we're still waiting on pumps at our main lift station, and they were ordered in November. So that wasn't the only thing that kind of demanded the increase. We're just seeing, you can't project, but we do know how old our equipment is. And you can look at the the Jacobs Annual Report. They do a really good job of looking at our equipment and projecting. We have a capital improvement plan that identifies, equipment that may need to be replaced. Although, like any facility, we have things that come up that were unexpected, like these pumps this past winter. And so it was about a $70,000 failure. And so we're still waiting on those pumps to come, but getting back to the increase, we're looking at a $23 a quarter increase in operations and maintenance, and that's per quarter per REU. That's going to generate just over closer to $65,000 more for our operational budget, which we see is needed. Looking at our CIP, we're projecting out 5 years. We review the CIP every year, almost every meeting with our treatment plant operators and our board. And so the need was 64 to increase the revenues, but it may need to go higher because everything's just costing more. So our budget that was newly adopted reflects that increase to cover those capital improvement plans. Happy to answer questions about that. And just to let everyone know, the NLTUA, we're going to be scheduling some treatment plant tours. So I don't know if you are interested at all, but on May 18th, for about 4 hours, from 10 to 2, we're going to be doing tours of our treatment plant. It's it's open to the public, and anyone can come out, and we're going to be giving tours on the hour from 10 to 2, and Jacobs, our treatment plant operators, will be there to inform the public and give a tour. Are there questions about our budget or operating NLTUA? I have Chris here, so he can answer more questions. I do know about the lift station failures, but if you have other questions, Chris is here and be happy to answer them.
One question on new connections. You projecting out 2 new connections every year. Are you on track to do that? Are you running ahead of it or behind?
Yeah, we went with kind of a conservative number on our bond retirement of 2 connections. Last year, the Village of Northport had 9 new connections. The township had 1.
Had one?
One.
And the potential for this summer, upcoming 22, we're looking at probably 4 or 5.
In the village?
Yeah.
Nothing for the township proposed yet?
You're gonna have 1.
One.
Yeah. So as Chris mentioned, we are projecting 4 to 5. We've already received 1 new connection this year. So, this chart that you're referring to for the debt retirement could go, could go higher, could go lower. Getting to the village debt retirement, we do review this twice a year with the finance committee. And so we look at our projections, and as you just mentioned, we are projecting 2 new connections until the final year of the bond payments. And what the spreadsheet basically is telling you here is that I identified our remaining bond payments, the balance of the assessment and capacity collection. And that number does change because as we're getting near the end of the assessment collection, people are paying off their assessments. And so we take that into consideration. And homes are selling and the assessments are being paid off. So, the collection, that number does change. The number 3 there on the spreadsheet, category 3, identifies what the debt retirement is. It's billed quarterly. So that is the NLTUA bills quarterly, and part of our billing, it's 2 categories. It's operations and maintenance, and then it's debt retirement. And for the village, it's scheduled to go up $3 every year. So you see those projections there. And category 4, I showed what the annual debt service amount is for the user. Category 5 shows the total amount based on the users that we project to collect for just that debt retirement collection. As you mentioned earlier, Mr. Greeny, that the category 7 projects our connections, potential connections in the village. And then, it looks like I got my numbers off there. I got 7 before 6, but anyways, number 6 just shows the balance. So, if we stay on track, the village, we're projecting potentially a $14,000 shortage by the end of the bond payments. I'm working with the finance committee. The village is committed to, making that a 0. So we'll just take a look at our connections. We do contribute about $10,000 a year out of our general fund into retiring our debt with the county, and that's not identified here also. So we're going to, have that be a 0.
Question.
Yeah.
On those hookups, how many of them are what you'd call, say, simple hookups, where the leads are into the property? How many of the hookups are from the main? And does the projected cost of hooking up cover that?
So it does not. So any of these connections, and Chris, I can let him talk about the laterals, but any of these connections are, whether or not, if the property is being built on and had an assessment. So when the original SAD, Sewer Assessment District, was laid out, property owners were given the opportunity to roll up if they had continuous properties, hypothetically somebody with 3 lots, and one of the lots had a home on it, could have rolled up the 2 without any homes that were vacant with the home and only received 1 assessment. Okay, that's one scenario. But there were many properties that were vacant and stood alone, and they had an assessment, okay, and that assessment was $10,100. And so these properties are kind of looked at that way. When we're getting a new connection, it could be a property that, like my first hypothetical scenario there, where it was a homeowner with 3 lots and had a home on it. If they unrolled and sold one of their lots, then you have a full connection, and there's no lateral there for those properties. The lateral placement is up to the homeowner when they're building the home to make that connection. The $18,670 that we're going to get in a connection, the Village of Northport will receive, does not pay for any construction. It's just to tap into our system. So yes, homeowners will be responsible. However, if it was a piece of property that was vacant and stood alone and had a $10,100 assessment, and now that property owner has decided to build, well, their connection fee is $8,570 because they paid back in 2006 when the assessments were rolled out, it was $10,100. So if you can follow my math, a connection fee is $18,670. However, if you had an assessment from the original assessment in 2006, then your connection when you decide to build on the property is $8,570. And you should have a lateral at your property to be able to connect to.
But does that cover the cost of doing it?
It does not. It's just to tap in.
John, but does that cover I guess my question is when you tap in and you tear up the road, does
The cost
that,
comes back to,
does that 18 grand cover the replacement of the road?
no, it does not.
Okay, that's all.
So that's just, it'll go on the construction onto the resident or property. So where we've had to do that, that's all part of the cost they incur for, the connection cost of connection, but the actual excavation and construction, that comes at their cost, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
John?
A while back, you mentioned that starting this year, you increased something to $27 or something. What is that?
Sure, the operations and maintenance fees
Per
per REU.
So everybody's annual REU is going up by $27
It's per quarter.
per quarter.
Mhm.
Where is that in here?
Sure, that's in your draft budget for the NLTUA. So it's $23, yeah, per REU. So an REU, just to give you an example, like a single-family residence is 1 REU. So they will see an increase of $23 a quarter.
What is it now?
It is currently, I have that. It's $153 a quarter, so it's going to go up another $23, I believe.
And then that pops, that is under the revenue where on that second page?
Sure, let's see. So you're looking at the revenue, it's not on the second page. So it identifies our total revenues on, I'm sorry, I'm looking at page number 1. Okay. Page number 2 has operations and maintenance fees, O&M, $425,920 is the projected, which is $64,660 more than our budget last year.
Because all these are gonna increase a little bit.
Correct. Yep.
On your colored one,
Mhm.
that column number 2, assessment and capacity collection,
Mhm.
maybe you explained it, but why are those last few years blank?
Because the collection will be completed. In 2006, the assessment came on, and that was 20 years. And then in 2008, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. In 2008, the capacity fee, which is mentioned there, came on to all property owners in our sewer assessment district, and that was a 15-year commitment. So that's why the remaining years there are no collection
Assessment
because
will be done in that 15-year commitment.
correct.
The capacity is actually, this is my last year to collect the capacity, then they'll be done paying that, and then in 2025 is the last year to collect the 10,100, the one that came in 2006. So that leaves 3 years with no revenue coming in through taxes.
Mhm.
That's why there's 3 years of blank money.
Right. That's why then you see there's still a collection, and the township also has a collection of on the NLTUA bill, the quarterly bill that we send out. We're still collecting. So when the financial professionals came in and they looked at our assessments and they looked at our debt, they scheduled it, our collections came a couple different ways to pay off our debt. So it was the assessments and the capacity, which the township collects for us. And then the NLTUA, since they're billing quarterly, it started off as just $12 a month. We were collecting in debt service, and that's just an avenue where, the village and the township, when they saw the need that they needed more revenues to pay their bonds, they could utilize that debt service fee to increase it. So the village and township looks at those numbers to see if we need to increase our debt service collection, which is like a toggle on the NLTUA bill. And as you see, we're projecting the village is increasing it $3 a year until the end of the bond payments.
Out of your general fund?
No.
What are you taking out of your general fund? You mentioned that a while back.
Sure. To answer your question, this comes from all the residents, the $3 increase annually. That's coming from all the residents in the sewer assessment district in the village. The $10,000 a month comes out of our general fund.
10 grand a month.
No, it's a year. I'm sorry.
10 grand a year is coming out of your general fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
When did that start?
Oh, it started off, they were contributing $60,000 for a while there. I want to say it's probably been at least 6 years.
Went from 60 to 10?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Joni, the new connections where you have more than 2 that you projected,
Mm-hmm.
Is that connection fee go for debt retirement?
It does. It's a good question. It does until the sewer is paid, the bonds are paid.
And at that time, would you look at adjusting connection fees, or keeping them the same, using it for O&M?
Yeah, so, the board will have to make that decision, but what I foresee for the NLTUA board is when the bonds are paid off, right now the NLTUA operates the system. Once the bonds are paid off, we'll operate and own the system, so those connection fees can come in, and that's going to help us with those capital, because we're going to have to be planning and projecting the replacement of our treatment plant facility, and some of our collections. So, yeah. And then hopefully there'll be a bunch of grants available. Yeah.
A question on the Jacobs report. It looks like your flows actually went down this past year as compared to the previous year. Is that because of I&I work, or what? Why do you think that occurred?
I would say because in 2020, we had the high water.
Yes.
So we've been finding, that cross connections are not allowed in our sewer assessment district. So we found that there were a lot of people, when the waters were high, were connecting their sump pumps to their sewer connection, and we had a lot of water coming into our treatment plant. And so we sent out a letter. Chris did some investigative work.
A little bit of investigative work, and as we go out on service calls, particularly with the grinder pump, the individual residential grinder pumps, and we'll find water introduced in there, and it's usually a good indication. You can talk to the resident and say, you have to have your, and they do, some do. Some are pretty good about, the letter was sent out, like Joni stated, and they disconnect, and most of them along the lake shore, they're trying to lower the lake level. Well, it looks like they work. So, that's why you're seeing a decrease in that.
Yeah, one of the things I remember from last year's report, you were getting flows that were exceeding the maximum capacity. Are you finding that happening less now, or?
Yeah, definitely a reduction in that.
That's probably attributable to the high groundwater and the sump.
Yeah, with the lake levels down, and then again, capturing, I shouldn't say capturing, but people that are aware and that we're.
Are you guys having any problems with infiltration, or is it just from?
As far as infiltration, like as far as surface water runoff, coming in through manholes, I think we're pretty good, all in all.
So you didn't have to smoke test or anything like that to see if there was?
No.
Okay.
We had a couple places, but we really narrowed it down to, I think, the influx coming in from some people on the lake shore. So,
It was that early morning, they go out really early in the morning, pop manholes, and they can see where it's coming from.
Yeah.
yeah,
We used to do it all the time.
Yep, so you know how that goes. And there's usually a low flow rate, and then all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of pure water, pretty good indication. So,
Looks like you got a handle on it all.
I think we do. We got with Jacobs and Joni take care of the books. I think we've got a good team.
They've been with you for a while, haven't they?
Right.
And you increased the budget for these, that you may have some big breakdowns expected. Was that reflected in this?
It is, yeah. Not only is it the breakdown, but like I said, that timing.
Getting old.
Yeah, when you have to wait months on a pump to come, thank goodness our main lift station, when it broke down, they were manning it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we were able to have a local company put our two broken pumps together and make one. So it's the little engine that could in there, saving us money.
Franken pump. So
Yeah.
It's still working, so.
Those pumps are due this month?
Yes,
Yeah.
end of the month. So the pump that's currently online will be then again cleaned up, inspected, and then it will be put in supply, essentially, so if you have an incident like that again.
One good thing that we do have for the NLTUA, we have a catastrophic equipment failure policy. So we've submitted some of those invoices, what we could, and we're still waiting to hear back from our insurance company. But $70,000 one pump failure, single point of failure for the NLTUA, when our total revenues is about $350,000 expected. It's a huge hit. And mind you, last year we did our biosolids haul, and we're projecting for other equipment to fail, but you can't always project for everything. And if my hair falls out by next year, you're going to know what's going on. So it can be stressful.
Yeah, so you have another maintenance end here, so.
Right. Well, just because it feels like, you turn around and you're like, oh, well, that broke. Okay, well, I'm sure you're familiar with that, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you just gotta, fix it and.
What did you guys get through pumps? Who'd you get them through?
Sure, we buy our pumps through, was it, Kennedy?
Oh, Kennedy.
Yeah, but they've been pretty responsive, but again, with the supply chain, it's just, everybody knows what we're up against in that regard, so. But they've been pretty receptive, like I say, trying to get that other pump put together to get us through this binding, so.
Good.
Any other questions for Joni?
I don't have such an in-depth report. They actually have a lot more responsibility on their end than I do. We don't do anything with the maintenance of the building or anything like that. But I've put together a pretty good scenario of where the township is at right now. And as Joni mentioned earlier, we have only had one hookup last year and one, maybe this year. So the township isn't growing by leaps and bounds in that department. We are putting away $60,000 or $70,000. We just increased it, so the township general fund is putting $70,000 a year into our fund, which has made my original numbers much better. I've got a breakdown of the total debt obligation to the township based on the last payment that we made in February from now until 2028. Then the debt service collection that I get from Joni, that's included in what we're using to pay back. That's about $25,000 a year is what we get for that. The outstanding debt is $937,609.45. Left to collect, and now that's between now, or this winter's collection through 2025. So one will go away at the end of this year, and I'll still collect until 2025. But for the township, left to collect in total is $228,337.45. So that's a pretty big deficit still left over for the township. But for the next 8 years, we'll be putting in another total of $490,000 out of the general fund. That's going to get out in the public, I know it. As they don't like to see those numbers. And so with the user fees, the township's contribution, I'm projecting a $24,332 deficit at the end of 2028, which will have to hopefully be absorbed by the general fund to pay off that remaining debt. And I just wanted to touch on one other thing with what Natula collects, the quarterly fees. That $23 increase is going across the township and the village to do the operating and maintenance side of it. Mm-hmm. And I think Joni touched on it, but at the end of 2028, or when the debt is paid, hopefully it'll be paid in 2028, the debt service portion of the quarterly fees will go away. Is that correct?
That's
because
correct.
The debt will be paid off. They'll still be collecting the $23 and whatever extra for the operating and maintenance to maintain the facility and all of its intricacies, but that debt service part of it will go away once we're paid up.
And then a capital reserve will come on.
Right.
Because you'll have to start replacing significant.
Right.
portions of this.
Yeah.
The hope is that it won't be as much, so, yeah.
So, the board that I have currently they were the ones, we had been collecting $60,000 a year. They increased it to $70,000 after I gave last year's report about where we were at financially. Still gonna be a little bit short, but like I said, $24,000 is better than $500,000 that was originally projected that we would be short.
Are the citizens giving you a lot of flack from that increase from 70 to 90?
Yeah, but I wear all this padding and I've got a bulletproof window in my front end, and yeah, they are still fighting it. It's done, there's nothing we can do. We can't take the plant out of there, can't move all the hookups, so it's getting closer to the end, and so they're seeing that little bit of a decrease because it decreases like a mortgage does. So they're seeing that little bit of decrease, and when the capacity part comes off after this collection, that's the $400 that'll go away.
There just hasn't been that much noise like there was a dozen years ago.
Right. Yeah, it was.
Which is good.
Yeah, it was tough.
Very tough.
Well, and the other big part of that is, like Joni said earlier, we've had a lot of sales, and so the sewers are being paid off, and rather than being assumed by a new buyer. And so that hinders the interest that would be collected. So we are getting less money in because of the paying off the sewer and no interest on it. So there's a lot of variables.
When a house is sold, aren't they required to pay off the assessment? They're not required.
No, it can be assumed by the new buyer as long as the mortgage company is okay with that. Some companies aren't. Some companies want it paid off, and so that's something they have to work out at the closing. But it has been assumable up until now. And like Joni said, everybody's starting to pay them off because they're getting a little bit more manageable. Like I think right now to pay off the 10,001 that came on in 2006 is a little over $2,000 for a single family residence.
Chris, what is your job title?
I'm the superintendent, well, BPW, but with NLTUA, basically I'm just I won't say inspector because, but more of a observation and to coordinate with the contractors and homeowners, a bit of the connections.
Of the sewer?
Yes, of the sewer.
You're not part of the village staff?
Oh, yes, I'm DPW superintendent and street administrator.
That's part of the staff?
Yes.
How long have you been on that?
That's my 8th year. So. Feels like
These
8.
are boots on the ground.
Yeah. I think all of us are aging out with the sewer.
Yeah. Part of the job with air.
Yeah.
I have a question for Chris.
Yeah.
Of those pumps, are your major pumps, are they all basically the same or interchangeable?
On the lift stations?
Yes.
The two main lifts are identical, twins in that chamber. There are different horsepower on the upstream ones, Norfolk Point lift station, Sun Street.
Could they be interchanged though?
Not really.
So if one goes down, say, 7th Street
Mhm.
or out by the point, are those two interchangeable, 7th and the point?
I'm not 100% sure. I think there's a different, on that, VFD on that.
So you actually have three
Yeah.
sets of separate pumps?
Potentially, yeah. So
Okay.
the bypass pump that we use, is adaptable to do that. So,
So it'd be 3 different lift stations, that's what you have.
Different
So,
sizes.
yeah, different
Yeah.
sizes, you would.
yeah, one of the
interchange.
pumps, it's a 50 and one's a 70, so, yeah.
Yeah, we could have replaced that pump in the main lift station with a larger one was available.
But
That makes sense, but there's science to it. You can't just,
changing
Add a larger-
all that, is all the rails, the connection and all that, so.
The grinder pump, you have grinders or step pumps?
Grinder pumps. Yeah,
Grinder
they're grinder pump package, yep.
Are those the homeowner's responsibility or are those part of the utility's responsibility?
they
Well,
wish. They are ours.
What's that?
They're ours.
There are, yeah. We do, when they have a problem, if there's a call out for a high level alarm or so on, we respond. Again, usually Jacob's Tech or myself, both will go out and identify the problem. So, the one thing that we run into, I guess, a little backstory, is that we encourage people to watch what they put in there. Some folks think that a garbage disposal is a wood chipper. So, not the case. That and grease. Grease is the biggest, will really hang on to the floats and it'll give some false readings. So to educate the public in general, and then we adopted, Joni and them sent out, we started that last year, with some of our seasonal residents, that we encourage them at the end of the year, if they're leaving for the winter, is that to fill up your bathtub, fill up your sinks, so that last flush, so to speak, goes into that grinder pump, we're getting good clean water out, and just so it's not sitting there and becoming septic, so.
Do you have mercury switches or ultrasonic switches on for the level control of the grinder pumps?
Those are all mechanical.
Okay.
Mercury switches.
Any additional questions?
Good job.
Well, we'd really like to thank you for coming to our meeting and filling us in on where you're at. We appreciate it.
Well, we're working hard at getting you paid back.
I'm just thinking, 6 more, 8 more years you want, you do the same.
Yeah.
Your numbers keep getting better, Denise, it'll be no problem at all.
You know what, Bob, in the beginning, I got beat up so badly for the numbers that I was putting out there. For a while, we were $1 million short, based on what I had to collect and what we had left to pay. And I was really worried.
Well, it looks.
But it took me 5 years to get my board, my previous board, to go to $60,000. I mean, it was like 2015. I started telling them in 2009. So, all those lost years, it was coming up on a point where I wasn't gonna be able to make the February payment. So, yeah, I'm feeling much better about the way my numbers are looking right now, so, yeah,
Good.
Yeah, looks like you're on the right path.
yeah, thank you.
I think that
Thank you very much.
Good job, Ted.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, we're to our second public comment period.
No public comment?
This, what do you have additional comments? We don't have anybody in the audience. Board member comments. Let's start Bob and Ian.
I'm just glad that they came, and I thought they were very informative.
Greg?
As well.
John?
I'm okay.
Jim?
I think you did a fine job. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with what they said.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
I get to go back and finish payroll.
You can go back and your real work. All right, okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
2 down, 1 to go.
another.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Oh.